Professor J J Asongu is an outstanding trailblazer in our community. Given our friendship and collaborations for some 30 years, I feel confident to introduce our keynote speaker to you this afternoon. Professor J J Asongu is a Libya-led man with the most courage you can find in Libya. He is a Libya-led man who dares to try where others will see apprehension, fear, trepidation, and run away. A Libya-led man who will do all it takes to better his community in Libya and Cameroon at large. A Libya-led man who will try everything in the world to make life work. Professor J J Asongu has served on the faculty of several universities here in the United States. He has set up and run his own companies here in the United States and in Cameroon, including St. Monica University in Boya, Cameroon, where he is owner and chancellor. He has worked for some Fortune 500 companies here in the United States. Professor Asongu led the SCNC here in the United States from the front as leader at some point. 2 years ago, he was designated by several Southern Cameroon groups as their lead negotiator for meetings with the Cameroon government. In our keynote speaker today, we have a bit of everything you ever asked for as a Libyan man or woman in the diaspora. Please help me to welcome Professor J J Asongu to the podium for the keynote speaker.
I'm really humbled, and thank you, Professor Bezejo. Distinguished leaders of LECDA USA, traditional rulers and elders, beloved sons and daughters of Libya, friends and partners, ladies and gentlemen. It is both an honor and a privilege to sit before you today, not simply as a son of Libya, but as someone deeply committed to the future of our people. I thank the organizers of this convention for creating a space where we do more than celebrate identity, where we reflect, we imagine, and we build. Our theme today is ambitious, Libya Paradise 2050, from vision to action. That title asks us a difficult but necessary question. What kind of Libya do we want by 2050? Do we want a Libya that remains fragmented, underdeveloped, and dependent, or one that is educated, technologically connected, economically dynamic, institutionally organized, environmentally responsible, and capable of competing confidently in the modern world? I believe we already know the answer. The vision, but vision alone is never enough. Dreams do not build roads. Hope does not install internet. Pride does not create institutions. The future is building through organization, discipline, cooperation, and practical action. If we are serious about transforming Libya, we must begin with confronting certain realities honestly. The first reality is fragmentation. Too often, we think first as villages, quarters, lineages, and neighborhoods before we think as people of Libya. Every village wants its own project. Every group protects its own interests. Every community competes for attention. But development does not work that way. Roads, hospitals, digital infrastructure, and economic growth do not belong to one village or quarter. Development requires coordination, scale, and shared purpose. This does not mean abandoning local identity. It means learning to think at a higher level. We must begin to think as Libya. Secondly, the second reality is geography. Historically, our ancestors settled across mountains, valleys, forests, and dispersed compounds. That made sense in an agriculture that made sense for agriculture, security, kinship, and land access. But the modern world operates differently. It is difficult to efficiently deploy roads, hospitals, schools, electricity, internet, and industry across highly dispersed populations in mountain terrains. We cannot realistically build a prosperous LEBLM while assuming every inherited settlement pattern must remain unchanged. Development requires concentration, strategic semi-urban centers, infrastructure corridors, and hubs of education, commerce, healthcare, and technology. Perhaps, as painful as this is to acknowledge, the tragedy of the Ambazonia War may become what the ancient Greeks called a kairos moment, a decisive historical turning point. History may be inviting us not merely to rebuild all the BLM, but to reorganize it intelligently, not abandoning heritage, but adapting it, not destroying villages, but connecting them, not rejecting tradition, but preparing for the future. Some may say mountains are our disadvantage. I disagree. Mountains are only a disadvantage when combined with fragmentation and weak organization. Look at Switzerland, mountainous, difficult terrain, diverse communities, yet one of the most prosperous societies in the world, not by flattening its mountains, but by organizing around them. They build roads, infrastructure, education, tourism, and local industries around them. Their mountains became an economic asset. The BLM should learn from that lesson. Geography is not destiny. Prosperity depends on how people organize geography. And let us remember, we already possess extraordinary assets: mountains, forests, fertile land, culture, educated people, diaspora network, resilience. Our challenge is not potential, our challenge is organization. This is why initiatives like Connect the BLM matter. Internet access today is not a luxury, it's infrastructure. Communities disconnected digitally risk becoming economically and intellectually invisible. Technology can transform education, improve healthcare through telemedicine, connect farmers to markets, create entrepreneurship, and allow diaspora professionals to mentor students and institutions at home. But technology without wisdom can divide, and without ethics can manipulate. So as we connect the PLM digitally, we must also cultivate critical thinking, responsibility, and good judgment. Practically, I believe we should pursue universal digital coverage across the BLM, develop rural internet hubs, invest in solar-powered infrastructure, expand telemedicine, strengthen community learning centers, and identify strategic centers for efficient concentration of infrastructure and services. But development is not the only infrastructure. It is people. The greatest resource of the BLM is not our land, it is our people. Across the world, the BLM sons and daughters are professors, engineers, doctors, nurses, entrepreneurs, IT professionals, scholars, public servants, and leaders. Imagine what could happen if we systematically organize this collective intelligence. I therefore propose stronger partnerships between home and diaspora, professional mentorship, digital classrooms, investment platforms, skill databases, annual innovation summits, student mentorship programs, and an annual BLM Innovation Challenge where young people compete to solve local problems and receive mentorship and seek support. The future belongs to communities that convert intelligence into institutions. But there is another opportunity we have barely imagined: economic development through identity and landscape. Culture and geography can create prosperity. Le BLM possesses something many regions would envy: mountains, forests, beauty, culture, hospitality, and history. So I propose 2 practical initiatives. First, an annual BLM mountain race. Imagine athletes, diaspora families, visitors, media attention, local businesses, hospitality, cultural exhibition, youth participation, entire communities transformed into engines of economic activity. Many places have built vibrant local economies around mountain events. Why not the BLM? Second, let us intentionally develop the BLM ecotourism. Not destructive tourism, but responsible tourism, protected landscapes, hiking routes, community lodges, historical tours, agricultural tourism, cultural festivals, environmental conservation. Our mountains should not only carry memory, they should also create opportunity. And as we think about building the future, let me remind us of something that should fill us with humility and responsibility at the same time. In the 1960s, while America was sending men to the moon, the BLM remained largely enclaved, cut off by valleys, hills, streams, and absence of motorable roads. Then came a Dutch Catholic missionary, Father John Bromehills, whom many of us lovingly remember as Father John the Road. He helped connect our land. The road was followed by institutions: Seat of Wisdom College, Mary Health of Africa Hospital. Those institutions transformed lives. Generations crossed those roads and entered schools and professions that changed their destinies. That story teaches us that development begins when people decide to build institutions. Our generation must build the next roads, perhaps not roads of gravel, but digital roads, educational roads, economic roads, institutional roads. The next Father John the Road may carry ideas, fiber optic cables, investment, and organizational vision. Perhaps that next Father John the Road is already sitting in this room. But infrastructure alone does not build civilization. Every society eventually becomes an expression of what it believes. Before institutions collapse, ideas collapse. Before economies stagnate, thinking stagnates. And this brings me to something difficult. If we are serious about development, we must abandon superstition and embrace science. We must reject explanations that discourage inquiry, responsibility, innovation, and institutional learning. Too often, societies remain trapped because every failure is attributed to invisible enemies, while practical causes remain untouched. Roads do not fail because of witchcraft. Schools do not improve through fear. Hospitals do not replace medicine with rumor. Economic development does not emerge from fatalism. Prosperity requires effort, knowledge, experimentation, accountability, and science. This does not mean rejecting faith, this does not mean rejecting faith, abandoning culture, or dismissing ancestral wisdom. Faith should deepen responsibly. Faith should deepen responsibility, not replace evidence. Culture should preserve meaning, not prevent progress. Tradition should transmit wisdom, not prohibit questioning. If we want a stronger BLM, our children must become builders, researchers, engineers, teachers, entrepreneurs, scientists, and problem solvers. We must cultivate curiosity, reward learning, and teach our children not merely what to think, but how to think. The societies that transformed the world progressed because they embrace discovery. So let us choose science over superstition, learning over fear, responsibility over excuses, construction over compliance. Development begins when a people decide that reality can be understood and therefore improved. But culture also matters. Culture deserves respect, yet it must remain capable of growth. Some aspects of our culture have evolved beautifully. Others have frozen in time, not because they continue serving people, but because institutions sometimes resist reform. Every generation has a responsibility to ask difficult questions, not to destroy culture, but to strengthen it, not to erase identity, but to make it life-giving. For example, why does the BLM continue operating with only 2 first-class traditional authorities, despite the historical richness and diversities of our communities? How should communities such as Njenawum be positioned? Should quarter heads receive stronger institutional recognitions, perhaps comparable to second-class chiefs? Should the camp receive recognition comparable to third-class chiefs? I am not imposing answers. I am opening a conversation because a deeper principle is this: culture exists to serve people. People do not exist to preserve structures that no longer serve them. Leadership is stewardship. Authority is responsibility. Tradition survives not because people resist change, but because it continues creating meaning and flourishing for each generation. I remain hopeful because I believe the BLM has everything required to flourish: talent, education, memory, global networks, beauty, resilience. Now we need organization. Perhaps that is our challenge: to take what we have learned, achieved and built, and to pour it back into our homeland, so that by 2050 our small mountainous corner of Africa becomes a model for what Africa yet can become. A place where mountains generate opportunity, education creates prosperity, culture inspires progress, institutions serve people, technology expands possibility, diaspora becomes investment, identity becomes solidarity, and vision becomes execution. The future is not something we merely wait for. The future is something we build. The mountains of the BLM have carried our struggle long enough. Let them now carry our rise. Finally, I would say that these ideas resonate. If these ideas resonate with you and you would like to contribute to the conversation beyond today, I have placed my contact information on each table. Please reach out. Let us continue imagining and building. I have also made available information about some of my books for those interested in exploring these themes further. I especially encourage you to explore the triple heritage of the Wen, because it speaks directly our story, our history, geography, culture, and the deeper question of who we are as a people. You will also find the splendor of truth. You also find the splendor of truth, which explores how truth can be discerned, develops the synthetic loop of knowledge, and argues that knowledge always carries ethical consequences. We also have Beyond Doctrine, which reflects how faith remains faithful to truth while continuing to develop in ways that emancipate rather than oppress. Although I do not have copies available here today, another work that may interest some of you is my book called Forced Unity, which reflects on the historical and political conditions that contributed to the Amazonian struggle and proposes possible pathways towards a more peaceful and sustainable future. Ultimately, all of these works ask one question: how do we build communities that are truthful, free, just, and capable of flourishing together? Thank you very much. God bless you. God bless the PLM. And may the future we imagine becomes the future we build for.